Okay, I got the live stream notice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did as well.
Just for confirmation. Okay, I see us.
Okay, I got the live stream notice.
Yeah.
Mr. Mays, are you on board?
Yes, I am.
All right.
All right, hello, Mr. Mays.
Hello, how are you?
All right, and yourself?
I'm well, thank you.
That's good.
Okay, are we set?
You're set, yes.
All righty. I would like to call to order the East Cleveland Public Library Special Board of Trustees meetings to discuss the ad hoc committee's findings. Saturday, March 5th, 2022. It is now 6:01 p.m. Mr. Attorney, would you please call the roll?
All right, Mr. Rashid,
Present.
Mr. Silvera,
Present.
Ms. Shahid. Believe
I heard from her and she's unable to attend this afternoon.
okay. Mr. Mays,
Here,
all right, Dr. Harris,
Present.
Hello, Dr. Harris.
Hello, Dr. Harris.
Hello. Hello, hello.
all right, Ms. Sharpley, did she make it out? No, I don't see that she's here yet. And Ms. McDonald.
Present.
All right. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 present.
5 present, so we have a quorum. Next
That's
item,
correct.
the next item on the agenda is lift every voice and sing. Does anyone want to individually do it?
I think we'll omit that over Zoom.
I'm sorry, sir. Your voice was very staticky.
I said, I think that we should omit that and get the rest of the issue instead. We do that in person, not over Zoom.
I think you have an agreement among unless someone wants to sing it individually, I agree. Do we have to modify the agenda in order to do that?
No,
So we just skip over it?
because that's not part. Yes.
Okay. The next item on the agenda states buildings and ground discussion, but I think that,
Mr. Chair,
yes, sir.
I'd like to move to amend the agenda to make the correction of ad hoc committee discussion instead of building and ground discussion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Well, excuse me, before comment on the motion that's before us. Well, you can consider it, but this does fall on the buildings and grounds. That's what we're speaking of in reference to. So we can't omit that.
Well, Mr. Mays, we do discussion that we had from the ad hoc committee. This is why we're having a special meeting, is based upon the discussions we had at the ad hoc committee meeting.
I'm cognizant of that. It's deal with buildings and grounds.
No, the ad hoc.
That's the purpose of the meeting.
But the ad hoc committee was a separate committee that was established to research the information to put forth to the council regarding our request for the land. And the members of that committee was Mr. Severa, it was Ms. McDonald, and I think
Ms. Sharpley.
Sharpley was also the other member of that committee. And our discussion where I was present with, along with Mr. Severa and Ms. Sharpley, the matter was still in that committee and is coming out of that committee now, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, okay. Well, that's the motion you should put on the table to consider it.
Yeah, I made a motion to change the agenda to ad hoc committee discussion, and there's a second. I call for the vote.
Is there any discussion? Any further discussion? Mr.
Well, I
Sharp?
don't know whether you got a second. I don't know whether you got a second on this.
Ms. McDonald provided a second.
Yes, she did. Is there any further
Is
discussion?
that just bringing it? is this motion is to bring it out of the ad hoc.
Mr. Mays, do you have any other way of a microphone or something? Because it sounds very like electronic. We can like barely hear you every other word or something.
Okay, can you hear me better now?
Yeah, it's still got the same.
Hello?
I can hear you, but it still breaks up like it's I don't know exactly what the issue is. But anyway, can everybody hear you?
I can.
It's better.
Okay, but my question is this bringing it out of the ad hoc committee to be considered today? Is that what your motion is about, Gerald? Did you hear me? Hello?
Hello? Mr. Mays, I can hear you. You're a little staticky.
Yeah, it's distorted. Ms. McDonald, are you still online?
Okay,
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. So I thought I heard someone in the background trying
well, I
to.
can hear everyone else very well.
It's only your voice that's being distorted.
I don't know why. Or maybe I take it off my headphone just to use it. Well, okay, let's move on.
Okay, it's been a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. No further discussion. Mr. Turner, would you please call the roll?
All right, Mr. Rashid,
Yes.
Mr. Silvera.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Mays,
Nay, because I'm discussing. To move it out of the ad for the table, I said yay on it.
Mays, your voice, it got worse just now instead of better. We couldn't hardly hear anything you said. I could hear you talking, but we can't understand what you're saying.
but I'm recording you as a nay. Is that correct, Mr. Mays?
If you record, I mean, if we bring it out of the ad hoc to be considered today, my vote would be yay.
All
Can
right,
you hear me now?
I can.
Okay.
Dr. Harris.
Yes.
All right, and Ms. McDonald.
Yes.
All right, I have 4 yeses, 1 no.
Okay, so that brings the ordinance out of the committee. And
But no, excuse me. My vote would yay to bring it out of the committee.
Mays, you're gonna have to find another way to communicate because we can't understand anything you're saying. It's distorted. It's like and I can't explain to you what we're hearing, but it's very difficult to we can hear your voice, but we can't understand what you're saying.
My vote is yay.
Your vote is yay. Okay. All right, so I have 5 yeses.
So at this time, I would like for Mr. Severa to just kind of discuss what has transpired with the ordinances and the one we've chosen so we can just make this decision. And then that's the last item on our agenda.
Okay. All right, Mr. Chair and members of the board, the ad hoc committee had a meeting in which we reviewed several drafts of versions of the legislation that is going to be submitted to East Cleveland City Council for acquisition of the properties behind the building. Mr. Mays had developed what we consider the original version based upon his tenure on City Council and his knowledge of past practices of how East Cleveland City Council operates in terms of how it drafts its ordinances. I then took that document and kind of, because I thought it was too general and wanted to try to make it as specific as possible. with certain language based upon the state law, because East Cleveland does not have its own set of ordinances regarding how it deals with land bank property. It basically utilizes the state law, state Ohio Revised Code as its basis for its decision-making on legal matters regarding land bank property. So I thought it was important to cite some of the specific language within the Ohio Revised Code that speaks to how a political subdivision can dispense of property. So you have, I think Mr. Turner sent everyone copies of the ordinances. You have the original version and you have the hybrid version. And just for further clarification, there are 5 parcels of land behind the library that are in the land bank. 1 property based upon the county records is held by the city of East Cleveland, and 4 properties are held by the land bank. And the proposals are to go after each parcel from, I think the furthest parcel from the library is 04, 05, 06, 07, and 08. 9 and 10 are owned by the library itself. And the property which the library sits as right now is actually owned by the school district. But the 2 parcels that are directly behind the main library facility are actually owned are in the name of the East Cleveland Public Library. So I am proposing the ad hoc committee is recommending to the full board the hybrid versions of the legislation, and we're asking that the board consider these pieces of ordinances. Mr. Chairman, that concludes the ad hoc committee review.
Okay, thank you, sir. I do recall at our last full board meeting, there were some recommendations also from Ms. McDonald to do that research. And, thank you both very much for the due diligence that you put forth in order to produce the document that we are now going to submit. So is there any other necessary procedural moves that we need to make in order, because if we're all in agreement, that's the document, do we need to actually vote on it, or is that just?
Sir, Mr. Chairman, I
Oh,
will
you make that-
I will move a
no,
motion.
Excuse me. There should be some discussion in reference to his presentation.
Well, you have the floor, Mr. Mays. Discuss as much as you like. I'm listening.
Number one, I agree with most of what he said. I do differ with him in reference to, respectfully different with him in respectful as I was general. Yes, I would 5722, I included in the ordinance which I prepared, discuss it, because no one would have known what 5722 said if I had not.
Yes, I
Put
would
it
have.
in there.
Yes, I would have, Mr. Mays.
And it was suggested by Ms. McDonald that we research that aspect of
And
it.
second, excuse me, I didn't interrupt anyone when they were speaking. Please, I would appreciate you hearing me out.
So this is excuse me, Vice President, Mr. Chair, and other members of the board. At this particular time, it is 6:14, and as Mr. May said, it is open for discussion. However, I think at this time that I want to make it clear and put it on the record, because I wish we had another person on the forum to have another person available, because my vote is going to be yay. What I cannot do right now, because coming on this meeting, I think we had a lot of discussion of where it was going to go. I believe that the members of the board did receive the revisions. And I think what needs to be stated is that no one's trying to top dog another person or overlook anybody else's intelligence that's on this board, because every single one of us brings a unique and very different aspect to what we are doing, which has made the East Cleveland Library the way it is as a collective. There is not one person who engages on this board that has an aptitude that is more effective and or efficient than the other, and I include myself with this. We are a community, we are doing this together. So as I look at it, it does not matter who said what in what time. If my name was never mentioned, so be it, I don't care. What I want to get done is us to receive our property. Mr. Mays did his part. He did a very good thing with his research. So did Mr. Severa, so did President Zaki and everybody who was involved. So at this point, I don't want to spend my Saturday evening discussing who did what, how they did it, and why. And I hope nobody feels slighted about anything that anybody else has done, because that's not what we're here for. I just want us to be cognizant of everybody's contribution, appreciate everybody's contribution, and let's move on to get this done and get it passed, because everybody here is very knowledgeable about everything. It's not to slight anybody.
I'm cognizant of that, and I appreciate some of the remarks that you give, but I did not interrupt you. I was alluding to the fact that 5722 covers all of the aspects. We do not have to go into details, and I'm not questioning anyone cognizant of the operation of that nature. I'm just stating what the facts are, and that I did include that in the ordinance that I written. I did not go out and pick out the section because
Mr. Mays, your voice is so distorted that we can barely hear. I can barely tell what you're saying, but I think, I think everybody understands as best we can, because your voice is really distorted. So can we just can we just accept the document and move forward?
Go ahead. And I support the, whatever, because I want the property as well. And I'm very cognizant of that. And I made that known. I don't care who wrote the legislation. I just want the property for the library.
Thank you, sir. Having said that, what
But
is the...
And I hope that people will respect, we will respect each other's ability. I'm not questioning anyone's ability or whatever. I just want what is best for the library. That's my concern. And
Okay.
I want it on the record.
Mr. Chairman,
State that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I move that we accept the draft ordinances 672-110-04, hybrid documents, draft ordinance 672-110-05, hybrid document, draft ordinance 672-110-06, hybrid document, draft ordinance 672-110-07, hybrid document, draft ordinance 672-110-08, hybrid document, and ask the board to accept these documents for submission to the East Cleveland School Board, East Cleveland City Council.
City Council.
Mr. Chairman, before we take that, we have to take them one at a time and not all of them simply read the name. We have to take them one at a time. Because there should be 4 pieces, 5. Well, I only got what they sent me was 4 partials. So we have to take each partial because they're separate. It should be separate on separate partials, and we have to take them one at a time.
But for the sake of this meeting, he's just described all 5 documents, and unless there's some sort of law that's written into our board that forces us to do it that way, everybody on this panel, at least right now, can I get a consensus that everybody understood exactly what he just said? Because if
I understand that, Mr. Chairman. You can't
where is that at? I don't see that anywhere. These are the
Have you ever seen? Okay, go ahead, do it whatever way you want to do it. I can't tell you anything. I know what You can't put all of those partials together and vote on. You vote on them one at a time. But you can do whatever you want. So
Well,
I let the record reflect that I just advise you couldn't do it that way, but you can do whatever you want to do. If you have the votes to do it. That's
I
the law.
believe that they should be done single. And the reason that I say that they should be done single is for the purpose of the record and for clarity.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'll withdraw
Thank you.
my motion. And then I will restate my motion to ask for approval of draft ordinance 672-1104 hybrid document. And ask for its
And I
approval.
second that motion.
It's been motioned to second. Will we vote? Mr. Turner, please take the vote.
You didn't have to ask for discussion. Discussion comes after you've had a second,
You have the floor, ma'am.
according to Robert Rules of Order.
Okay, I'm calling for discussion. I'm sorry, it's been motioned in second, and now it's open for discussion.
This is Mary Ann Harris, trustee, East Cleveland Public Library. Thank you. And my question is, have these this information, who prepared it? Was it prepared by an attorney?
No, it was,
First question.
may I answer that? It was prepared by O'Mays, and the attorney does not have to prepare the legislation to go to the council. That would be done with the law director preparing deeds. We only now trying to require the property, and they will vote on getting the property, Dr. Harris. And so all of that would be prepared by an attorney or whatever from that perspective. No legislation has to be prepared. Council writes for that legislation. We are getting a council member to sponsor this piece of legislation. That's the way it was written from that perspective.
Okay, my next question is, it goes along with that. Have we approached council other than this means? Have we approached them by another means about this property? Because what I remember is the approach.
I'm glad you asked that. We have decided on a person that has been recommended, a person to sponsor this piece of legislation. And along with others, it's written sponsor and co-sponsor, and other members of council which join in to co-sponsor with the person who has been selected. And we did not, we have not rather spoke with the other councilmen. Some of them have been spoken with, but the one council will sponsor this. She would take it. Well, the council will take it from that perspective. The person that whom we have chose to present this to the council, not only the council, to the law director to prove it. That's the process in which it will follow from Ms. Dr. Harris.
So what is the process?
All we do is just give it to we just give it to the person whom we have chosen to get it to, and that person will take it from there and move forward with it.
So it will be
Yes, that's
submitted to our choice of a sponsor next week. That's why we're trying to
Well,
get it.
this is my question, or my concern. It's not a question. It's a clear, honest concern from the perspective of a citizen in the city of East Cleveland. And my concern is when that process is used without all of the information being presented to each council member, that, in my opinion, brings about a division. and it brings about chaos from their point of view, from my point of view with council, and it extends to the library board and from there to the community. And we do not need that. There,
It will not come.
what is the emergency of not presenting
No,
that all council members do not receive the same communication at the same time? That's my concern.
That's no. So, let me explain something to you, Dr. Harris. That's not the way what you were saying is not totally the way our government operates. It goes to a person who, this person is, I don't know whether I've been cut off or what.
No, your voice is much clearer.
It goes to a sponsor. As I write legislation, let me just use myself as an example. I have written legislation when I was on council. I wrote the legislation. It goes to, I take it to the law director. The law director approves the form. That's what's on there. That legislation is written just the way legislation is written in the city of East Cleveland. I want you to listen to me very attentively. And then it's approved to form. It comes back, goes in that person committee because she wrote that person is sponsoring the legislation, and it is discussed with all council. So council has a right to vote on it or disvote on it. It goes to the committee, and committee which falls under land, contracts, and property or whatever. It goes in that committee. Or either I can write legislation with another committee, but I sponsor that legislation because I wrote it. And that's all we're doing here, Dr. Harris. Every council will know about this. They will have an opportunity to vote on it. So it just giving it to the sponsor. That's like you write legislation, you bring it to the library and you discuss it. We vote on it, or vote it up or vote it down. That's the way it operates, Dr. Harris. With any, I don't know, from the White House to the outhouse. Okay, that's the way it operates.
Yeah, Dr. Harris, I think that I understand. But you're saying from a procedural perspective, I understand what you're saying, but I think that, and we have discussed this ad nauseum in terms of how we were going to do this, and what we have been instructed to do is that we give it to the sponsor. Then the sponsor has a process that they'll follow so that everybody will get a copy of it. If in fact, during that time before, if anybody asked us for a copy, we can provide it to them immediately. But the process, the way the process works is that the person who is sponsoring it gives it to the law director, and then it goes through the whole process. So they all get a copy of it so that everybody will have a copy. But if anybody comes directly to us and asks us for it, I'll be glad to provide it for them.
Right.
Mr. President, right. This is Ms. McDonald. Can I speak, please?
I have another question that brings up another question, because I want to be clear on what I am supporting. Is this process for specifically the way it goes with institutions, or can I, as Mary Ann Harris, East Cleveland citizen, go to a council member or person and say, I want property 219, parcel 219678, whatever, in the land bank? Do I have to take it to council because they will not allow me to buy it?
Well,
yes, it has to go.
I want to know the process.
Excuse me, Mr. Mays, for a second, because I've been watching the Zoom meetings of City Council, and they've conducted several of these different land transfers, and it's been done exactly the way that we're following now. We kind of use that as a pattern as to how we should actually do this. But if you, at these city council meetings in East Cleveland, the person gets a sponsor, I guess, and they approach the sponsor and say, I want, like, for instance, they got a land next door, some sort of thing that they call it. And I've seen them do several of these where the person who owns the house wants to get the land next door. They get a sponsor, the sponsor brings it up, they vote it up, yes or no?
Mr. President, this
Yes.
is Ms. McDonald. Okay, what I've done is send a link about local legislation, how it gets passed. It's in the chat area, and individuals can look on that or do a Google research. And I think the clarity is, how do you get a sponsor? Do you give it to everybody, or do you select the person who is more likely to agree with what you're trying to do to present it to council? Because that's basically what your sponsor is. So you can have 50 people in a room and give it to 10 if you think that those are going to be the ones who's going to help you pass your legislation, or you can give it to one, and then it goes from there. But what I did was I sent a local ordinance process. So, just for informational for everyone, include myself to look again. I understand, this and everything, and then you can never understand everything because it's still so much, and every municipality has a different way of doing certain things as well. But when it comes to legislation purposes, pretty much how the sequence goes is how it goes in the majority of municipalities. And yes, citizens can produce legislation, find someone to say, hey, can you look at this? You think that the city will be able to pass this ordinance, and an individual as well as a group or institution has the ability to work in getting legislation passed.
So having said that, Ms. McDonald, would you suggest that we give it to all of them and just let one of them sponsor it? Because at this,
that could be counterproductive. I mean, because
that's what I thought.
Because you can't, you don't have to. So they're going to see it anyway. Once the law director, like Mr. May said, once they get it, they have to put it into the, the legal part of how the resolution and ordinance and everything is going to look, and there will be a vote on that. Everyone will get a copy of what that's going to look like. The council people will have to see it because they're going to be the ones who vote on if it passes anyway. You just want to give it to the person or individual, whether it's everybody there or whether it's someone say, hey, can you present this to council because this is what I want to get passed. The whole body will see it.
Okay, and that's basically the same direction that I've been given. And I have been approached and talked to several other people that are on the council who are anxious and willing to support us in our endeavor. So out of those people, we selected one, and that will be the person that will actually sponsor it. Does that clear up any questions that you have, Dr. Harris?
But let me just say this to Dr. Harris. Dr. Harris, for the mayor, we had a mayor, I won't call his name, who was practicing law.
She may be clear now. That's why I asked her.
No, I'm just let her know.
Just please let her respond first. Please let her respond first, because
please let me just let me say this, and I think this will clear it up.
She had
let me just
answering your question.
I understand that, but let me just say I was not on council. I was a civilian, as you indicated, just a plain citizen in the city of East Cleveland. I wrote legislation to have a full-time mayor. That's why we have full-time, they cannot hold any other employment. I was not on council. And I could name people that worked with me where I got the full-time law. I went to another municipality, they had a full-time law director. They didn't even know it, but I knew it because I've done my research. But anyway, to answer your question directly, yes, a citizen, John Doe, can write legislation and give it to council or what have you. And that didn't only go to council, it went before the whole body because they had to vote on it because there was a charter change to have a full-time law director. And council, when the council sponsored it, and it went to all the other councils and they voted on it. And that's why we have a full-time law director, to answer your question directly to the point. Yes.
Okay, I understand. Thank you all very much. I understand. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Harris. So we've had a motion and a second, and is there any further discussion?
I call for the vote.
Mr. Turner.
I call for the
would you
vote.
Vote.
All right, Mr. Rashid,
Yes.
Mr. Silvera,
Yes.
Mr. Mays,
Yay.
Dr. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. McDonald.
Yes.
I have 5 yeses.
All
Five
right.
yeses. The first ordinance, I forgot the number on it, Mr. Severa. Would you-
672-11004.
Okay, would you bring the next one to the floor?
Okay, I move that
What's the
draft ordinance.
disposition?
It passed. Everybody on here
Okay.
voted.
Okay, well, you have to give the disposition. Okay, that's all I'm asking.
All right, Mr. Chair, I move that the board accept draft ordinance 672-11005 hybrid document for approved for submission to the Cleveland City Council.
We have a
Second,
motion- And we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Mr. Turner, would you please call for the vote?
Mr. Rashid,
Yes.
Mr. Silvera,
Yes.
Mr. Mays,
yay.
Dr. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. McDonald.
Yes.
I have 5 yeses.
5 yeses, it passes. Mr. Severa, would you present the next one to the floor?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move for adoption of draft ordinance 672-11006 hybrid document for submission to East Cleveland City Council.
It's been
Second,
motioned. Do we have a second?
second,
It's been motioned and second. Is there any discussion? Hearing
call
none.
for the vote.
I'm sorry.
Call for the vote. I call for the vote.
Mr. Turner, would you please call for the vote?
Mr. Rashid,
Yes.
Mr. Silvera,
Yes.
Mr. Mays,
Yay.
Dr. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. McDonald.
Yes.
I have 5 yeses.
5 yeses, it passes. Would you bring the next one to the floor, Mr. Severa?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move for adoption of draft ordinance 672-11007 hybrid document for submission to East Cleveland City Council.
It's been motioned. Do I hear a second?
Second,
It's been motioned and second. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Mr. Turner, please call for the vote.
Mr. Rashid,
Yes.
Mr. Silvera,
Yes.
Mr. Mays,
yay.
Dr. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. McDonald.
Yes.
I have 5 yeses.
5 yeses, it passes. Is there another one, I think?
There's one more. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move for adoption of draft ordinance 672-11008 hybrid document for submission to East Cleveland City Council.
It's been motioned. Do I have a second?
Second,
I hear a motion and I have a second. Well, are there any further discussion? Hearing no discussion, Mr. Turner, please call for vote.
Mr. Rashid,
Yes.
Mr. Silvera,
Yes.
Mr. Mays,
yay.
Dr. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. McDonald.
Yes.
I have 5 yeses.
I have 5 yeses, the motion passes. Let's see then. Does that conclude this part of our agenda?
Yes, it does.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is audience participation. Do we have anyone in the audience that would like to give their input?
I do not see an audience.
No
No,
audience?
wait. No,
No?
we're good.
Next item on the agenda is the one we've all been waiting for. Adjournment.
Mr. Chairman, I
Mr. Chairman,
move
if
for
there's no
adjournment.
further matters come before this forum, I move for adjournment.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion to this? Mr. Turner, would you
not.
please call? I'm sorry?
I said absolutely not.
Mr. Turner, would you please call for the vote?
Mr. Rashid,
Yes.
Mr. Silvera,
Yes.
Mr. Mays,
Yay.
Dr. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. McDonald.
Yes.
I have 5 yeses.
5 yeses. I want to thank everybody for taking time on their Saturday to attend this meeting. It's the most important matter, and I want to move it forward as quickly as we can, and we're going to be successful. I think our next step, once it gets to the council, is that we kind of work together, that whenever this issue comes up before council, that we're there at City Hall or either on Zoom, whichever is most convenient. And I'd like for, if possible, for us to be in attendance if we can. I think we have the support that's necessary. We are adding to the positive status of the city of East Cleveland, and I think we've been recognized for doing that. So thank everybody. I won't hold you anymore. The meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you and good night to all.
All right, everyone be safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Turner, for your work. Appreciate you, man.
Not a problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take
That's
care,
all.
Carlos. Thank you,
Is
Mr.
that-
Cockfield.
All right, everyone take care.
Thank you. Have a good evening, everyone.
Good night, Mr. Mays.
Good night.
Good night, Mr. Mays. Have a good
Good
evening.
night.
Have-